Welcome back to Master 79. In this lesson we tackle an ielts writing task 1 line graph showing sources of air pollutants in the United Kingdom between 1990 and 2005. We will read the graph together, brainstorm it, plan it, and then write a complete Band 9 model answer, line by line. Here is the task. The graph below shows different sources of air pollutants in the UK from 1990 to 2005. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features, and make comparisons where relevant. Notice the 3 instructions hidden in that wording: select, report, and compare. You are not asked to explain why pollution fell, and you must never invent reasons. This is the graph redrawn from the data. 4 lines run across 6 3-year intervals. The green line is total air pollutants. Blue is industry. Red is transport. Yellow is households. The vertical axis is measured in millions of tons from 0 up to 7. Give yourself 20 seconds here and simply watch the shapes before you read a single number. One honest note before we write: if you add industry, transport and households together, the sum does not match the total line in most years. In 1990 the 3 sources come to 7.9 million tons, while the total line sits at 7. The chart is internally inconsistent. This does not matter for your band score because task 1 asks you to report what is shown, not to audit it. Report each line as drawn, hedge your figures, and never try to reconcile the arithmetic in your essay. Here is the reading routine I use on every line graph. 1. Read the title, the axes and the units. 2. Find the highest and the lowest line at the start. 3. Find the highest and the lowest at the end. 4. Mark any crossover, plateau or sharp turn. 5. Decide which lines behave the same way because that grouping becomes your 2-body paragraphs. Now the brainstorm. Split every line into fallers and risers. Falling, the total, from about 7 down to roughly 3.2. Industry, from about 5.9 down to 2. Households, from 1 down to 0.2. Rising, transport alone, from 1 up to about 1.3. That single riser is your most valuable sentence because contrast is what examiners reward. Second brainstorm pass, rank and compare. Industry starts far above everything else and is clearly the engine of the whole decline. Transport and households both begin at about 1 million tons, then separate completely. By 2005, transport has overtaken households by roughly 1.1 million tons. That overtaking is the key comparison of the whole graph. The overview is the single most important paragraph in task 1. It is worth a quarter of your marks on its own. 3 rules. 1. State the biggest overall movement. 2. State the main exception or contrast. 3. Use no specific figures at all. Save every number for your body paragraphs. Here is the plan. Paragraph 1. Paraphrase the task. Paragraph 2. The overview, with no data. Paragraph 3. Industry and the total, because they move together. Paragraph 4. Transport and households, because they start together and then diverge. 4 paragraphs, about 200 words, 20 minutes. Paragraph 1. The introduction. The line graph illustrates the volume of air pollutants emitted in the United Kingdom by 3 separate sources: industry, transport and households, alongside the overall total over a 15-year period from 1990 to 2005. Notice that I have paraphrased every content word and added the length of the period, which the original prompt does not state. Paragraph 2. The overview. Overall, total emissions fell markedly across the period, and this decline was driven almost entirely by industry, which started as by far the largest polluter and shed the greatest volume. Household emissions also decreased, whereas transport was the only source to rise, ending the period as the second largest contributor. Read it again and note that it contains no numbers whatsoever. Paragraph 3. In 1990, industry accounted for roughly 5.9 million tons, while the total stood at about 7 million tons. Industrial emissions then plunged, almost halving to around 3 million tons by 1996 before easing more gradually to approximately 2 million tons in 2005. The total mirrored this trajectory, falling to roughly 3.2 million tons by the final year, a reduction of more than half. Paragraph 4. Transport and households both began at about 1 million tons. Transport, however, edged upwards, fluctuating between roughly 1.2 and 1.4 million tons and finishing at around 1.3 million tons. Household emissions moved in the opposite direction, declining unevenly with a brief recovery to about 0.8 million tons in 1999 before sinking to just 0.2 million tons, the lowest figure on the graph. Here is the complete answer on one slide. 212 words, 4 paragraphs, a figure-free overview, and every value hedged with roughly, about or approximately. Pause the video here and copy it out by hand. Copying a model answer by hand is the single fastest way to absorb its sentence patterns. Your language bank. For falls plunged, fell markedly, almost halved, eased, declined unevenly, sank to. For rises edged upwards, climbed. For steadiness, fluctuated between, hovered around. For comparison, by far the largest, whereas, in contrast, the only source to. And for hedging, roughly, about, approximately, just under, a little over. Use hedges every single time you read a value off a graph. Why this answer reaches band 9. Task achievement. It selects, reports, and compares with a clear figure-free overview. Coherence. 4 logical paragraphs grouped by behavior, not by category. Lexical resource. Precise, varied verbs of change with consistent hedging. Grammar. A natural mix of simple, complex, and participle clauses with no errors. One caveat, and I want to be straight with you. This band 9 label is my own quality check against the public ielts descriptors. It is not a score from a certified examiner. Your challenge. Cover the model answer, set a timer for 20 minutes, and write your own response to this graph. Then post your overview paragraph in the comments and I will read every one. If this helped, subscribe to BMaster79 for the rest of the Task 1 series. See you in the next lesson.